I think that he and others attempted not only to sadistically abuse me, but to split my mind into as many pieces, to split my personality. As a matter of fact, my sister remembered my father calling me by other names. She wondered, why was she being called by these other names? He definitely knew of my alter personality.
And Jeanette is a social worker and a ritual abuse survivor who brought legal charges against her father, alleging that he had brutally tortured her as a child and teenager. Her father was a Boy Scout leader, church deacon, a master mason, and executive director of the National Board of Boiler and Pressure Vessels Inspectors in the United States. And in this position, he was responsible for overseeing inspections for all nuclear power plants in the U.S. Jeanette's father attempted to plea bargain in pleading guilty to a misdemeanor of facilitating child sexual abuse and an award of $50,000 to Jeanette, which she refused. And just as she was extraditing her father from Ohio back to Kentucky to face trial, he died suddenly.
After his death, I heard that the Masonic Brotherhood went out and did some rites at his funeral. Gee, I couldn't go, but they were there. And so I called the Masonic Lodge that he'd been a member of for 40 years because I wanted some documentation for my own self. And sure enough, and I called and told them I was the dutiful daughter, and I'm so sorry. And so I got back the documentation that Mr. Blank of blank address was a member of Jeffersontown Lodge number 774 in blank, Kentucky, date of birth, blah, 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 blah. He entered his first degree in Masonic Lodge on February 1965, made the second degree in February 66, and made Master Mason in March of 1966. Within 1 year, he went all of those degrees. Gee, how is that possible? I don't know. But I got that. Is there a correlation? Well, in this case, for this particular lodge, I believe there is some collaborative evidence there. And that is that there were two other cases that had been prosecuted and convicted, two perpetrators from the same Masonic lodge to which my perpetrator had been a member of for 30 plus years. Is there a correlation there? Gee, do birds of a feather flock together?
How was the process initially that you started remembering your abuse, and how much time had passed since the abuse ended?
Well, my last hands-on abuse by my main perpetrator, my father, the last incident of abuse occurred when I was 24 years old. So ongoing from early childhood all the way till I was 24, the process of remembering is the old off-again, on-again process of remembering, but only remembering certain incidences or having flashes, like viewing a faraway video that sometimes became clear and sometimes was fog-covered. I really started getting a lot of my memories and flashbacks at age 28 when I met and married my husband.
Was there certain things that triggered flashbacks for you, or did they come? How did they come?
Well, I have an idea about how that happens. I think, for me, that when I married my husband, I was then in a routine, day-to-day relationship with someone, in an ongoing, regular sexual relationship with someone, my husband. And what prompted me to enter therapy was shortly after I got married, I was sitting on the bed in our bedroom, and my husband sat down beside me, and he simply placed his hand on my leg, on my knee, and I had a flashback and I started breaking things. I was just rageful. And it was almost like I blacked out when I did this, or what I know now to be a switch. And after this I thought, oh my God, what is going on? I have to do something. Little did I know there were parts of me that throughout the years had gone to other therapists trying to get help without my knowledge.
So this, you had gone to therapy for other things that were happening in your life before the age of 28 then?
Yes, but I did not know they were going to a therapist and talking about incest. They actually had approached therapists. And most of the time, from what I now understand, is that most therapists at the time, in the early 80s and prior to that, even in the 70s, they weren't dealing with issues of incest, period.
Can you talk about what age you think your abuse started by your father, and what kind of things happened?
There were various types of abuse, but as a young child, I didn't have enough food to eat. That was a result of plain old neglect. It was not because there wasn't enough money to provide food. It was because of neglect. The abuse, the different types of abuse. One vivid memory that I had, that I've also drawn pictures of, that I also reported to my police detective in the course of prosecuting my father. I was hung upside down with ropes from rafters in the garage. It was an unattached garage beside our house. I still have the scars on my ankles from this. I was threatened with a welding rod. I was penetrated with an object upside down. Other types of abuse would be simply just being in bed, taken from my home, taken out of bed, raped. It could be any time of the night. It could be with people I knew or did not know.
Now, when you say ritual abuse, what do you mean by that?
What I mean by ritual abuse is severe physical, mental, spiritual abuse at the hands of multiple perpetrators. I mean abuse that is taken in a context of not only a spiritual or religious belief, but abuse that is very hard to define as why, which all victims ask ultimately, why. It is abuse that is torturous. It involves torture. It involves threats of torture. It involves threats to your person, to your very being of your soul. It involves threats to humanity. It involves threats to persons that you hold dear. It involves threats to your pet.
Do you have any indication, or some of these other perpetrators that were outside of your family, what was the relationship to your father?
Some were known to him through his fraternal organization. Some were known to him through his religious organization, which I definitely feel he never belonged to the religious organization. It was simply a way to procure more victims. I was not his only victim. I was not his only victim in our family. He had multiple victims outside of our family. When I revealed to one of my father's relatives, his only remaining direct relative, This relative revealed to me that she had been raped by 2 of the same family members that had raped me as a child. I was able to document at least 3 generations. The police also had photographs and access to the site where I was taken as a child in the context of ritual abuse. The evidence existed. Not only did my main detective investigate and believe me, I had other police officers that supported me, that accompanied me to approach the district attorney.
Did you feel that specifically the Masonic context had anything to do with the ritual itself? Was there Masonic elements to the rituals? Ritual abuse?
I don't necessarily feel that there was. I feel that birds of a feather flock together. I feel that his cohorts in his fraternal organization, as part of their joining in an abuse of me, were because they were all pedophiles, simply pedophiles, regardless if they were practicing Satanists, regardless if they were a member of a fraternal organization, regardless if they were a Boy Scout leader, regardless if they were a community figure, regardless if they worked for state government, regardless if they worked for federal government. What is indicative to me underneath all of this is the fact that these are persons that commit crimes against children of the most hideous nature, crimes that are sadistically violent. I think that he and others attempted not only to sadistically abuse me, but to split my mind into as many pieces, to split my personality. As a matter of fact, my sister remembered my father calling me by other names. She wondered, why was she being called by these other names? He definitely knew of my alter personalities.
Do you think he this sounds a lot like the deliberate creation of multiple personalities with the mind control, government-funded mind control experiments. Did you feel that your father had knowledge of these kind of techniques, or he just picked up somehow that you did have multiple personalities and then continued to use that against you?
I have not completed all of my research, especially concerning his military career and any connections there. From what I know now, I would find it very remote that he would have known this on his own, the capacity to induce this. However, I do believe that, not only do I believe, I know that organizations, whether we want to call them Satanist or whether we want to call them organized pedophile clubs, whether we want to call them mind control, are very much aware of multiple personality defense systems. They definitely know about it, and they seek to create it as a way to keep their abuse of the victim hidden. They use this in a manner that protects their identity. So as I and all parts of me being abused, horrible sadistic abuse, could get up in the morning and go to school and function and come home and live with these perpetrators.
Did your father threaten you, just outright threaten you if you told anybody?
Absolutely, yes. He threatened me, not only verbally, but he threatened me with a welding rod. A welding rod is an item that's hot enough to melt metal.
Specifically choose to leave out the ritual aspects of the abuse in the court, or did you somehow want to work that in?
Definitely left it out. Because there were no statutes against ritual abuse, it was clear that the courts would not proceed under a statute that did not exist. First-degree rape, whether in the context of ritual or organized abuse, rape is rape is rape. That's a crime. Used in force, it was a felony crime. Used by your first-degree relative, it is incest.
How do you think, if you did introduce testimony regarding the ritual abuse aspects, how do you think that would have been received by the court and the jury?
I think it would have been very difficult, if not impossible. However, the players behind the scenes, that is, the district attorney, the police officers involved in my case, my own personal attorney, including persons in the Kentucky Attorney General's office, everyone knew it was a ritual abuse case. People were very much sure of the case, and this is what it was because of the really vast amount of collaborative and not only collaborative but evidence that I had, and also supporting testimony from other victims.